No,
like I
I'm
said,
just
Virtus
not.
Pro versus Fnatic, 13-2 on Overpass. My team is only good on LAN and in the group stage, and if we're not facing EMS.
And if you're not facing Faze, G2, Movistar Riders, who else is in the top 30? Complexity.
Complexity's
Complexity is
definitely, they're like top 10. Early
top 8.
CS2, they're top 10. Yeah.
Yeah, they're 8 in the world right now. And Twist is going back to Liquid.
Dog shit
Faze
Liquid's
is
better
going
than
to-
Fnatic.
Dog shit Liquid is not better than Fnatic.
Yes, they are. You have Dexter. Jesus Christ. The kid's got like his 15th chance.
Who's better? Dexter or Yekendar as IGL?
Neither.
As
They both
IGL?
suck. They both suck. Yekindar should not be an IGL to start.
Of course, no, he shouldn't be.
Dexter should be an Oceania IGLing some bit-right team out there.
Honestly, Fnatic have come really
Jack.
close on
They
Literally,
gotta do better than that.
Literally what Fnatic need is to just simply say, fuck this roster, keep Mezzy,
I gotta.
and then buy the Faze roster from Complexity.
excuse me, Afro
Excuse
Magic
me.
Gems, get rid of Roy, bring back Roland, get rid of Dexter, bring in Cadian. Problem solved.
Fucking nerd.
You have,
Oh my
dude, you have
God.
the most HLTV form take I've ever heard.
Dude, so this is what I will say. Trims is the most consistent player of all time. Go back to 2014, 2013 when he was playing for LG. What was it?
Dude,
like
the-
LG or something like that.
this
He's the
ain't
most consistent
2014.
player of all time, right?
You're not wrong. He would be a good role player in a team full of youngsters who frag.
Yes. So
Not
keep Mezzy.
not the retirement home of Fnatic.
Yeah, Roy is old, and Dexter is old. And I think you keep Mezzy, you keep Crimson, you keep Afro. Afro is young, and that is what you base the team around. You go get a young, good IGL. Nealon, for example, would be good.
Nealon has also had his chances. He sucked on K23, he sucked on EG, and he got benched from, what was it, 1 win?
We're gonna
Good night.
go
I'll see y'all later.
It was
Later.
Yeah, Jack.
One, and that was for Snacks.
I'm
too.
out.
We're gonna say that EG, he got his chance on EG, the literal butthole of video games of CS:GO.
Listen,
And
listen.
not
If
gonna-
you're a good IGL, you make bad teams better. For example, many may not know, Kerrigan played for Envious,
Oh, I know he played for Envious.
and he brought them to the America's Minor at the time, whereas they were dog shit, just like 30th in NA. TSL Black was probably better than them.
And let me make it clear, Kerrigan is also the greatest IGL of all time.
No,
Right?
You can
Glaive is a system IGL who hasn't done shit outside of the system. The same as how Device is
Yeah,
not
and
the
he
GOAT
destroyed
player.
everyone.
The same as how
What?
Zippix is not the GOAT clutcher. I'm sorry, but sorry.
I
Glaive
think the
cannot be the GOAT
statistics,
IGL.
the statistics, beat all of whatever you're saying. So I'm just gonna ignore you.
So this is how I recognize who's a GOAT and who's
Because
not.
none of them are good players, but they systematically are a good team together.
So
That's just how it works.
I agree with you. This is why I put Kerrigan above Glaive. How many teams has Kerrigan brought up to
How
tier
many
of, like,
majors does he have?
almost win? One.
Exactly.
So
Okay,
it's
so
not
how
it's
many-
not
how
the
many
count
teams
of
has Glaive
majors. You could count. So the argument for Glaive not being the GOAT is that Kerrigan's done it over and over and over, and also in
He
general.
has more total trophies in general.
Yeah, but
Which
when
is like-
Kerrigan's sitting there, he's got Toxic Woxic from Turkey. He's got a young Frozen and a young inexperienced Rops.
Kerrigan
Plus
Kerrigan
washed
did it
up
with
Chris
Astralis.
J.
Oh,
So
by the way,
here's the other thing. You have to look at these two IGLs were good at the same time. Unlike Glaive and Pronax. Pronax was long since kaput before Glaive really took the spotlight, right?
Yeah.
So
I also
in
wanna
the no, you have to look at the head-to-heads of Kerrigan and Glaive. And the one team that gave Astralis trouble every time was either FaZe when Kerrigan was on it or Mouse Sports.
Also, a little bit known fact about the whole Astralis
Yeah,
project.
yeah.
That was Kerrigan's project. Fun fact. He made
Okay,
that
but
team
he-
actually
but-
contend for titles. He made that team actually able to beat GOAT Fnatic, like top tier Fnatic, when the only other teams that could contend were, what was it, like French Envious and an IP who were long since dead at that point. So, if you look at it, he did it with TSM, then Astralis. He did it with, what was it, Mouse Sports? He did it with FaZe Clan, twice now?
So
He's done it with
here's
how many
here's
rosters?
here's
He's
here's
done it in 1.6 as well. I mean,
here's-
if you go back to 1.6, Kerrigan smokes Glaive. Because in 1.6, Kerrigan won 2 majors. But we don't count 1.6 because HLTV wasn't around. at the
so
time.
here's the
I'm just saying.
Oh, that's
Here-
also a different game.
also Glaive's never won a Cologne.
Glaive's never won a Cologne.
Here's the other thing. Here's the other
Most
thing.
prestigious tournament in Counter.
With and people will bash on Kerrigan for being benched from Astralis. In reality, it was more needed for his character development. And same thing, I agree with the Boston major. He was still had kinks to work out of his system and his calling. It's like why same as Simple failing over and over and
I
over.
don't know. Glaive was still the IGL of like the most consistently good team. So like,
So here's the question: Was
if
Glaive
it's
good
about
without
developing teams,
Sonic? Was Glaive?
sure.
If we're talking, yeah. So
but
so
like
if
he
we're
also wasn't
talking-
consistently on a roster as long as they were.
Okay, I believe that if Kerrigan stayed in Astralis and had Zonic, that team still wins the same 4 majors. I do
I
believe
don't
that.
agree with
simply
that.
With
look at Astralis with and without Zonic.
I will
Whatever's
no.
wrong.
I'll say this though. I'll say this. Plus Magisk minus Kirby because Kerrigan was also working with Kirby.
Oh yeah, exactly. Plus Mages Mighty Kirby. But like this is genuinely my belief is you can look at Astralis and you can see when they were good under that system of literally having Zonic, Device, right? And then Zipix and Dupree in prime form, right? Then the second Zonic leaves, the second Device leaves, that team falls off a cliff.
I mean,
Glaive
that
has
makes
never
sense.
recovered, not even come close to even touching a final.
So you always have to wonder what the coach actually does for a team, right? You can see a Zonicless Astralis who had problems. They made one run at what was that? Blast Fall Finals.
Cologne. It was
And
Blast
Cologne.
Finals, and then it was that Cologne.
So and then you can also see the drop off with Cloud9 from the online era when Groove, their coach, could talk all the time. In my opinion, Cloud9 was being IGL'd by Groove, not by
Oh, no,
Nafany.
they definitely were. They definitely were.
So you have-
Nafany is a good IGL, but he's not like a world beater IGL, as we saw with that Boom team.
I find it
As we see with-
incredibly funny that he's got a good bed boom team now.
I think that was just the first LAN at CS2. I don't put any stock into the first CS2 LAN. Like I take it with very limited stock, right?
I would say let Bet Boom cook.
Oh, I want to see what they can do from here.
You
on
know,
out. I
the
think it's
CIS
very
CIS
promising.
region always has had amazing riflers,
Oh, definitely.
amazing players.
And also, seeing Zorte get another chance, I'm very happy about, let's be honest. Zorte deserves another chance. But
So here's
it's the same. So here's the same question for you. Who's the GOAT offer, Mason? Sorry, May.
Well, I would say Device.
Okay.
but-
See,
I imagine you're gonna tell me something different.
I think it's Kenny S. And the reason I say that is because when Kenny S, for those years that Kenny S was playing CS at the highest level, he was never trying. He has admitted this 100 times. Apex has admitted this. Everyone has admitted this. He was never putting in practice. He was never trying. He literally would go to the club, come back, and do that. He never practiced. And also, the entire way the op was used, Valve literally nerfed the op because of Kenny S. He was a one-man army. Genuinely.
I think
He
honestly,
got
if you look at it
Kyoshima to
from
win
like
2 majors. Kyoshima won 2
pure
majors.
pure stats of like a Simple are just like impossible to ignore. Though.
well, I would say I wouldn't
when
say
he
I
was at
wouldn't
his
say.
peak.
So here's how I'd phrase it. Who's the greatest player? I'd say Simple,
I'd say
100%.
Simple, too.
But Simple's not necessarily an opper. He ops. I would say he's a hybrid.
I mean, he literally just said he wants to role change.
He wants with the op is the way it is in CS2. You can look at the early Mirage game while I was opping. I had 3 kills, and I was just getting bullied by wide swings and the peeker's advantage.
And that's
It's
something
not
that
fun
was
to
very
operate now.
prevalent in early CS:GO. That was something that if you go back and watch, Kenny S was a flick machine like no other player. Like Monacy is the closest I've seen coming to Kenny S, right? And I'm only saying this because like when you look at
his
just the upper role.
inconsistency though, like
Yeah, because he's
kinda
young.
pushes him.
Kenny S was the same when he was in Fairy Games in CS Source, right? But he got to go, he played with Fairy Games, he then went to Titan, he then went to Envious. I mean, Kenny S, if he didn't only stay in the French scene, and if he actually practiced, he'd probably be the best player of all time. But he just never practiced, and he was never in the best teams. He had to do a Shocks IGLing like 3 different times, MBK IGLing. Like, come on. You know what I mean?
And I mean, it's close. I would actually, to be fair, argue for Device, because when you look at an opera, the way I see it is, how do you want an opera to perform in your games? And you want Mr. Consistent. And you know, even my biggest problem is my opping style is very heavily based off of Simple. I'm very aggro, and I used to play on his exact sense for the longest time, right? But it's very hard to stay consistent on that sensitivity. If I would have started off in the game at a low sensitivity, you know, nice and consistent, hold the angle, peek, shoot, get the kill, fall back, peek, shoot, get the kill, fall back, then that would have been better.
I mean, you can make an argument for that, I guess so. But for my honest belief and understanding, like for the game, having someone like Kenny S, someone like Simple who can just take over the game, someone like Zaibu in that way who can just take over the game is much better in the long run if you can build around that and count on that and get that consistently, than seeing just the, alright, this opera's gonna hit his shot, then fall back to the next angle, hit his shot, then fall back. Yes, that's good, but I think that someone who can take over the game, a star player, should be afforded the best weapon. That's the same reason why Yekendra going to IGL never made sense to me, simply because why is he going to IGL when he literally was known and is still known for his unbelievable aim? Why are you trying to IGL if you have unbelievable aim?
It's no different than when Nico tried to do it. And also, to be fair,
I don't know. The star player idea doesn't. I don't.
It's either you have teamwork or a star player.
Yeah.
And I prefer teamwork.
I don't think.
I mean, like this latest iteration of Faze is the perfect example of teamwork. It's not 5 Nikos on a team. It's
exactly like that's G2's issue. G2's issue is they have like the worst IGL for a tier 1 team ever, the worst. And
give them a shot on Fnatic.
No, I hope not, dude. I hope not.
So here's the thing. Before I hop off, the Faze roster has to go somewhere. We know Twist is going to Liquid. Where's everybody else going?
For sure. I think they stay as a 4. Right, Rain's never leaving Faze until he literally retires. Kerrigan should stay there.
Well, Faze can't compete now. Faze is conflict of interest.
Oh yeah, Complexity.
Complexity's parent company bought Faze. And it's cheaper to maintain Complexity, who pays their players $10K a month, rather than Faze's $20 to $30K a month, and you can also sell them.
Oh, it's more than that. But the question I have, right, is, do you want a team that has proven to be a world beater, or do you want a team that usually doesn't even make playoffs? Because what we saw from this first major with Complexity is not oh, this team can now challenge for championships. It is everything popped off perfectly, and there were a lot of issues with a lot of other teams. And Complexity got the easy side of the bracket. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't say that. I would say Complexity. JT's always struck me as a good IGL, but having problems with the timing of the calls. If the call doesn't occur at the right time, I think they are a contender for top 10. Their ranking makes sense where they are. They are a playoff. I would say they are a playoff team, but maybe not in the quarters or the semis or the finals every time.
I would agree with that.
They're not complete dog shit. But
no.
What I would say, what my thought is if you want to buy the Faze roster, you need you need pockets, right?
Yeah.
So that leaves out TSM. TSM is broke as a bitch.
Don't even talk like. Oh my gosh.
So then you're left with, well, does G2 want to buy them and sell Nico Hunter, JKS, bench Hooksie, and keep Monacy, take Rain, Brokey, and
No, if you're
or
thinking
or
G2, you keep Nico Monacy, you bring in Kerrigan and Rops, and like
Rain.
like,
You bring in Rain too.
yeah, you bring in Rain. You keep Nico
Dude, that'd
Monacy,
be a
you
fucking
bring in
sweet-ass
Rain.
That would
and
be
Rops.
an insane roster. That would be one of the people who has the money to do it. Then
If Nico's ego doesn't continue to pop
I
up,
think
which it
he
hasn't
realizes.
to,
I think he realizes now that he's older. I think he
And then he's got
realizes that
Monacy as his star
it's
two
time. It's time to actually listen. I think his ego's calmed down from what I've seen and what I've read.
I think so too. And
Or hear me out. One org nobody's talking about is NRG. NRG's out of CS:GO right now.
I don't think they're coming back either.
If NRG also owns Optic, if Optic
Hex
comes,
did want to get back into CS:GO.
if or 100 Thieves, you buy Phases 4, you buy Frozen out of his contract.
Signals.
They're probably gonna stick to Riot Games.
I mean, that's what they're sticking to now, but I mean.
But 100 Thieves is mentioned wanting to come back, and also Hex is mentioned
has
wanting to come
Hex,
back.
yeah.
If you buy Frozen, sign the Phase 4,
Oh
you have
my
a
gosh.
solid roster and a top 10
Frozen for
immediately.
Twist is such a good upgrade. Frozen for Twist is such a good upgrade. Frozen is such a better player than Twist right now, dude. He's so young. That's why. By the way, Twist is the better player, but Frozen is a younger player, and he's worked with Kerrigan before. Oh my god, that roster would just...
Frozen's numbers under Kerrigan were wild.
Dude, he was so good under Kerrigan. Again, you can obviously, I agree, you can make the argument for Glaive. You can make even the argument for, like, you know, Pronax, right? And I disagree with that one, even though I am a huge Fnatic fanboy. But, man, you see what Kerrigan did with Mouse, you know? Genuinely, I believe if COVID doesn't happen, Mouse are the #1 team in the world, they take a major.
Weren't they number 1 for a while?
They were #1 going into the COVID era, with Fnatic #3.
Because they won that Chinese LAN, right?
The last LAN, I think it was a ESL Pro League in front of a crowd, or something like that. But the last big LAN before the COVID era, before we shut down and went online, was Fnatic versus Mouse in the grand final. I remember this. Or at least Fnatic were top 4, and Mouse won that event.
It would have to be the final, because they eliminated Astralis in the quarters, or in the semis, I believe. Let me find out.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I'm going to Kerrigan. Teams, Mouse. What was the last trophy that they won?
I'd love to stick around, but I do gotta go.
Yep.
Good night, y'all.
Good night. Kerrigan. Achievements. Oh, I only talks about majors. Oh, LAN achievements. Here we go.
I should probably look at Liquipedia, that's easier.
It was an ice challenge. It was Epicenter. What? It was ESL Pro League. That's what it was. It was ESL Pro League Season 10 Finals, which was in Odin's, and it was in front of a crowd. And Mouse placed first. Fnatic placed second. It was Astralis who Mouse eliminated, Navi who Fnatic eliminated. And keep in mind, the Fnatic roster at that time.
Yep. Fnatic beat Navi. Mouse beat Astralis.
And the Fnatic roster at that time was Golden Flusha, JW Crims, Brand, and I am telling you, dude.
If COVID never happened, that roster still stayed.
That roster still.
I can 100% agree with you.
Not only does that roster still stay, Fnatic plays top 4, if not make it to the grand final of the next major. This roster right here, Golden was a great IGL. Did not frag, but a great IGL.
He was the second coming of Pronax, just with curly hair.
Yes, he was. And a lot of autoimmune issues. JW was still able to get away with his shenanigans. Crims was as consistent as ever. Flusha still had that senior vac feel to him. And Brolin was so... This was prime Brolin, dude. This was such good Brolin. And then they ruined it with COVID.
It's hard, and I would understand why it's hard to feel motivated to play when you're online. It makes so much sense why.
Especially if you're JW, Flusha, and Crims, especially JW and Flusha. I mean, like, JW won the first major in Counter-Strike with Fnatic, you know? Flusha was there. Like, these guys had been playing LANs since forever. They were LAN players, you know what I mean? Like, and this is the issue I have with current day CS, with COVID, post-COVID CS, the level of Counter-Strike is lower than pre-COVID CS. It is so much lower. I truly believe that. Because there was this entire thing in my mind, like there was this entire talk before COVID of when you were playing Counter-Strike of, okay guys, when you're like you might be good online, but LAN Counter-Strike's different. When you go up against the JWs, when you go up against the Kenny S's, when you go up against these French players, these Swedish players, these Swedish rosters, right? These LAN
this that ESL Pro League.
Yeah.
That's where two great memes come from. It's where Mao's 16-0'd EG on Nuke.
Yes, I know.
And then the Astralis game, that's where that Glaive mouse, the desk slam meme comes from.
Yes.
Where he just slams this and yells, fuck. You can, may not be fucking English, but it's fucking Danish.
Yes.
That's great. Anyway, I'm gonna hop off now.
Yeah, I need a little bit, dude. I gotta wake up in 5 hours.
Same.
Work.
You have a
Alright,
good
well,
night
it was
now.
Nice playing with you, man. Invite
Yo,
me
dude,
whenever you want to play.
we're on all the time.
Hell yeah. Just message me whenever you're
Don't even need a message, just look in chat.
Alright, I will. See you, brother.
See ya.